Pucks with Haggs.
Welcome to another edition of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. I am your host, Joe Haggerty. We're brought to you by Prizepicks. Download the Prizepicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, a preferred partner of the NBA. I also want to let you know that you are listening to the Pucks with Haggs podcast, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. Make sure to hit subscribe to the Bruins Ringside YouTube channel and turn on notifications for when a new video drops on the channel. I believe this is the 302nd episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. I am your host, Joe Haggerty. As I said before, you can find my work at joehaggerty.substack.com. Subscribe and get yourself a premium membership. Get all of my Bruins and NHL writing sent straight directly to your inbox. I also write columns for the Boston Sports Journal. Plenty of stuff going on with the Bruins this week, so check out bostonsportsjournal.com for all of that coverage, as well as all the other major pro sports in Boston. And I do a weekly Q&A with the subscribers, and we answer a lot of the questions from that Q&A on this podcast. So tune in for that. Well, you're definitely going to answer some of those questions today. With me today, longtime friend and colleague, Mick Colageo. Mick, please tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
You can find some now on Rink Wrap, which is linked to X at Mick Colageo, and on Facebook. I'm also working on the yearbook for next season, the Bruins chapter for the Hockey News. So that's what's happening on my end.
Very good. All right, let's get Bruins news first, and then we'll talk about just what's going on in the NHL, because it's pretty amazing. All the trades that are happening, all the big names that are moving. There's just an incredible flurry of activity going on right now. But the first and most important thing, and I talked about it a little bit last week because I knew this was coming, and we got a sort of a preview or a coming attraction of it when they announced that his number 37 was getting raised to the rafters. But that kind of let you know, as soon as you heard that announcement, that this announcement was coming, which happened on Monday. That Patrice Bergeron is going to be inducted into the 2026 class for the Hockey Hall of Fame. There's going to be some other New England notables, Keith Tkachuk from Melrose and Malden Catholic, Brian Burke as well. But, you know, I think we all assumed that Patrice was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer and that he was absolutely going to be headlining this class. And that's exactly what's going to happen. It was awesome to see him pretty emotional, I think, when he got that phone call from Mike Gartner and Ron Francis that he was in. Hearing him tell stories yesterday about how his kids reacted to it and how it was kind of a family thing was awesome as well. But it just continues. And we kind of went through this the year before, Mick, with Zdeno Chara and him getting all these honors kind of all within a short period of time. You know, Patrice Bergeron's going to get to have his year now where he's widely recognized for not only the great player that he is, the best two-way player of his generation, one of the best two-way centers of all time. Certainly, I think, in the running for the best defensive center of all time and best defensive forward of all time. But not only the great player, but the winner. The competitor, the leader, the outstanding human being, the guy that always has time for everybody in the community, the first-class person that he is, the inclusive person that he is as a leader that welcomes people in and treats everybody with dignity and respect and class, and just serves as a model, just not only for what you want to be as a hockey player, what you want your kids to be as a hockey player, but what you want your kids to be as a person, you know. And selfishly, I get to see it up front a lot because he's coaching in Newton Youth Hockey where I'm involved, and I see it every day, and I see him on the ice with the kids, and I see him working with all kinds of different kids. I see how important it is to him that kids are having fun playing hockey more than anything else, that he's always got a smile on his face that makes it fun for them, that his priorities are in line, that he's just an outstanding ambassador and role model for the sport, and exactly what you would want an NHL guy to be if he was on the ice working with kids. And just you put all of that into a package, and I said this the other day, I feel incredibly lucky to have been able to cover him his entire career in Boston from beginning to end, when he was a shy 18-year-old, unsure of his English, that came out of nowhere and was on that team with, Glenn Murray and Joe Thornton and, all these grizzled veteran guys and all these pros on a loaded team, a really good team that first year when he came in, and watch him grow over the years and have ups and downs and have triumphs and have him get concussed by Randy Jones and almost miss a whole season and not sure if he was ever, coming back or going to be the same player again. And, to see him turn into the Hall of Fame player, the Stanley Cup winner, the Olympic winner, like all the stuff that he became in his career, and to watch him grow into like a dad who's got 4 kids and is, such an important community member in Boston, and a vital part of the community in Newton and just Boston in general. You see him on commercials all the time, and he's made his home here, and just everything that he does. It's a pleasure. It's such a great human being and such a good person to be around, that I can't say enough good things about him being honored, and I'm just like privileged and lucky that I got an upfront seat to see all of this happen from beginning to where we are right now. It's just a very great experience and just all that's like really right with professional sports.
And that was today's podcast. It's really hard to add to it. You got my brain going in so many different directions with this guy. His game, it really translates to how he played hockey, how he conceptualized it. There are a lot of players, like Mark Divert tweeted out how there are literally in the hundreds how many young players he's interviewed who've said they model for their game was Patrice Bergeron.
Yep.
For many of them, they don't even understand what they're saying.
Yep.
Because they may think that for some, it's only an acknowledgement of the importance of the defensive side of the puck of playing the whole team game. And that, yeah, that's important. That's what I'm going to go for. That's the go-to guy. That's what you're saying. Others may be obsessed over watching his game and trying to become like Bergeron.
Yep.
It's rare, though, that there is a hockey player that's literally hardwired out of the womb to conceptualize hockey as a team game that it is, and to build out their skills based on what they see. Sitting in the jokes yesterday about him being in his first year, sitting in his net
Yeah.
instead of practicing and not wanting to skate because the feet were killing him.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like he gets this view of the game. You wonder if that's when he watched the game the whole year, and if that somehow remained indelible to him as like this processing point for him to engage hockey and decide, what am I going to do? What am I going to be in this game? What does my team need me to be? Because that's how he played his whole career. And he always changed. He was like a chameleon. He did what the Bruins needed, what he sensed the Bruins needed him to do.
Yep.
The things coaches never told him to do. He was like, we need more of this. It's stuck with it. It's just one of a kind. And you always hope that you'll get to see a great player again. When Bobby Orr left hockey, when his left knee was hollowed out and there was nothing left, I wondered a lot if hockey could ever be as enjoyable. And then Ray Bork came along, and we couldn't believe it. We were just blown away. And 20 years of Raymond, and he's gone. I'm thinking, how could the Bruins back end ever be this as compelling? And how could you ever watch the game the same way? And shortly thereafter, we got Patrice Bergeron, who came all the way back to help the breakout and left a lot of points and statistics on the board. He had David Krejci to be the Bruins' offensive defenseman, their puck mover, for 2/3 of every game. They were the Bruins' offensive defenseman, going all the way back to help the Bruins have a breakout and win the Stanley Cup with missing that element in their D group. Bergeron led the way. Krejci followed. The Bruins had a tremendous championship spinal cord that lasted over a decade with those two down the middle. for 40 out of 60 minutes. And it's been hard for them to find the same kind of viability going forward. They keep looking for it. They keep trying. We could list a dozen names of people who have been recruited to see if they could develop into this player. We finally got one right now who looks like a keeper.
Yep.
And what the Bruins look like in 5 years is anyone's guess, but I feel pretty certain that Fraser Minton will be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And beyond that, you never know. You just don't. The 1980s tell me that all the time. When you start the decade with Peterson, Fergus, Casper, McNabb, and by the time you're 5 years later, when you make the Stanley Cup final, your centers are Craig Janney, Ken Linsman, Bob Sweeney. You still got Casper, but 2 years later, when you're back again, you don't. It's you just don't know. But wow, what an era! Privileged to have been able to witness it up close and personal. Bergie has been wonderful to me as a person
Yep.
off the ice. I don't know how he slows down time and makes everyone feel so special around him.
Yeah. And that's the mark of like somebody that's a special human being that makes you feel that way and has that ability. And he definitely does. And and I marvel too, just at like, he's a guy that like, I think, and he talked about this yesterday, he's never satisfied. Like he's always constantly trying to improve himself, improve things that he does. And he was like that as a hockey player. I think he's like that with stuff that he does off the ice too. And it's so interesting to me. Like, I remember back, I used to do with NBC Sports Boston, we did some of those like ride along interviews where they were driving in the car with me and we were doing an interview and they had cameras set up in the car. And I did one with Bergeron.
Like karaoke with the late night show there.
It was right
What's
around
his
that
name?
time. Yes.
James something.
It was 100
English
James
guy.
Gordon, 100%. It was very much kind of like that, except we were doing an interview in the car driving around. It was sponsored by the car like companies with these new pimped out cars that were driving around. And I did one with Bergie, and I remember one of the questions I asked him was like, what are you not perfect at? Like, what do you struggle with? Because everybody thinks you're perfect at everything. And he talked about, and he laughed, and he talked about public speaking and how that was something that terrified him when he was little. And he was really afraid to speak in front of crowds. And it was very difficult for him when he was younger.
Pretty damn good now.
That's something that he's amazing at now. And he's very good. And, like he does commercials and he does like, he speaks to people, like has speaking things where he goes and speaks in front of hundreds of people. You used to see it at the state of the Bruins when the ticket holders would be there and he would be speaking to them and do stuff like that. Like, it's amazing to me that he's just one of those people that like is constantly like curious, constantly improving, constantly. The people that are the higher achievers in anything in life are all that way. They all are constantly trying to learn, constantly trying to improve, never feeling like they've like made it and they can kind of sit back and relax. They're constantly sort of voracious with the willingness to learn and improve and all that stuff. And he's one of those people.
I got two counterpoints that are popping out of my head like sprouts on an old potato that you're gonna have to let me get out before.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. What do you got?
Okay, one is the one you just touched on. 1995. Last year at Boston, the old Boston Garden, I got to sit in the stands toward the end of practice while the players were still making that wonderful noise of sticks and pucks on the ice, especially wooden sticks and pucks, and sit with Brian Sutter and talk about Ray Bourque. And Sutter said, the thing about Raymond is he goes, all the great ones have it. Michael Jordan, he starts listing people. He says his nightmare is he wakes up one morning and he can't do what he could do yesterday. He said, all the great ones have this. They never settle. Yep. And this harkens back to something that our esteemed colleague, Kevin Paul DuPont, whom you tried to recruit for this morning and unfortunately couldn't be here. I was with Dupes when post presser scrums were allowable back in the day. And we were actually at the early days of Warrior, and Dupes was writing about Patrice Bergeron and drawing a comparison to Ray Bourque to Don Sweeney. and I was waiting to ask Don Sweeney something else, so I was hovering. Sorry, Dupes. And but the answer was fascinating because Donnie said that Ray could walk away from the game. He could actually take time away. He says Patrice never, ever stops thinking about how he can be better and how the team can be better. It never
Mhm.
shuts off with him. It was constant. And he said he just always is looking to improve. He always has ideas on what they can do. He goes, he's one of the best players I've ever seen. And he played several years with Ray Bourque as his defense partner. I
Yes.
mean, he was in the trenches with Raymond, who's an all-time great in my mind. I don't think Bobby Orr is the only defenseman player that I could ever say somebody who's definitively better than Raymond Bourque. I have to go right to the top. But Raymond Bourque was a house of fire. He was a vacuum cleaner out there, just taken down. He goes to the corner and three Hartford Whalers go flying and he comes out with the puck. It's just he in his prime, he was a tornado. And and Sweeney played with him. And he's saying that in this regard, Bergeron was just like incredible, phenomenal. It's just he never stops trying to improve. He added a one-timer deep into his career. Why? Not because he decided, damn, I wish I was a 50-goal scorer. No, because the Bruins didn't have one. So
Yep.
before Pasta had emerged as that guy, Bergeron made himself that guy and worked on it feverishly to give the Bruins something they need. That's
Yep.
how he negotiated his entire career.
100%. And he was like that in all facets. It's fascinating. It was fascinating to me. This was, I think, last year. We would bump into Patrice a lot at the rinks. They would have games right after us. We had practices back to back. Like Zoe and Zach, my daughter and his son were on different squirts teams, but they were both like sharing the ice a lot too at different halves of the ice. And there was one time, I think it was after a game. Finn was, he's a center. He plays very much in the Patrice Bergeron style, and I think he's one of those young players that definitely modeled his game after him and plays does a lot of the similar things to what he did, like the way he plays. And it was like Finn and Patrice started talking about faceoffs, and he was talking about something that was going on in the game, and Patrice was giving him advice and talking about strategy and how you set somebody up and do certain things. And it was so amazing for me to sit back and watch those two getting deep in the weeds, talking about faceoffs. And hearing Finn Patrice giving him really good advice, and Finn processing it and realizing wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about, and to see them going back and forth, it was super cool. And it's just one of those, very unique things that you get to experience when you're in that situation. So
me seeing these guys on a daily basis or weekly basis, whatever, it's nothing to me. And they're really good guys, and I like it. I'm never sick of hockey, so I cover the Bruins. When I see fans who get really the opportunity meet these people, that's
yeah,
when I feel emotional.
yeah.
Watching them, it connects me back to how I feel about the people I grew up sleeping out tickets to go watch play. Wayne Cashman,
Oh yeah.
Brad Park,
Yep.
So so when you get to see this, I mean, for you, it's being your son. That's unbelievable. That's just incredible. Isn't I think it's said that uh, didn't you note that Patrice is level 4 certified?
That
Was
was
it you that noted that?
Mass Hockey sent out a message
Mass Hockey noted
congratulating,
that. Okay,
and they
what level are
noted
you? What level are you?
yeah, I was aware of that as well, because
What level are you?
I'm level 4, same thing.
Okay, doesn't that feel
He
goofy?
but that's pretty that's you have to go years and years to and I remember talking to one of the Mass Hockey people, and they're like, he's done all the stuff, and he takes time in the summertime and does all the courses, and he's really curious and interested about just another facet of him, be
That's
really
just wow.
oh, it's
That's just
crazy. but it speaks to him and like how he is. And Z was that way too. Like Zdeno Chara was very exhaustive in his curiosity and the work ethic he would put in. If he did something, he was going to fully commit to it. Like, they're both, and it's why they won so much, and it's why they're who they are, and the culture that they built with the Boston Bruins. But yeah, he knows what he's doing, but he constantly wants to learn, and like, phenomenal person, just in general for youth hockey, for what he's done in his career. Like, he everything he does is right. It's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way. It's a tribute to who he is as a person, how he's made up, just his DNA, and how he was raised by his parents, like all that stuff, which got a lot of conversation and was ground that was covered yesterday, and rightfully so. So much of that goes back to his parents and how he was raised, as it always is with really good people like that. All right, we're going to take a break right now, and we are going to talk about Prizepicks. It's a scorching sports summer, and you can make all your picks on Prizepicks. The WNBA and baseball are heating up with big tennis slams and major golf tournaments on the horizon. You can make your picks for all these events and more all summer long on Prizepicks, America's #1 sports pick app. I think I'm going to go get into soccer this summer with Prizepicks. They're offering everything from group stage winners to goals scored. I'm excited to watch the big stars from countries like Argentina, Brazil, France, and the U.S., and Norway. I guess that guy's been amazing. And win money while doing it. What's cool is that I can stack game winners from soccer, NBA, the W, and baseball on top of my player picks for even bigger payouts. So now there's even more ways to play and win big when I get my picks right. I can make all my picks in the same app with Prizepicks, America's #1 sports picks app. Prizepicks is available in all 50 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. The entire summer of soccer is on Prizepicks, all 48 countries and every matchup. And if you rep your side during the tournament in Prizepicks, you could win a trip to the final in New York. It's the biggest tournament ever, which means there's even more opportunities to cash in while you root for your favorite national sides and global soccer stars. Download the Prizepicks app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, a preferred partner of the NBA. I also want to let everybody know that you are listening to the Pucks with Haggs podcast on the CLNS Media Network, as always. We ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS and enjoying all this hockey talk, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Bruins Ringside YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Bruins content with fellow Bruins talkers like Conor Ryan and Evan Marinofski. There's also the CLNS Media Network and Celtics All Access on CLNS, the NBA History Channel, Patriots Press Pass, and Bruins Ringside YouTube channels as well. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new Pucks with Haggs podcast video drops on the interwebs. All right. Mick, what do you make of what's been going on in the NHL? All of these trades that are going down, all these first-round picks that are getting shuttled around, Brady Tkachuk shooting his way out of Ottawa and going down to Florida to be with his brother Matthew. Simon Nemec gets traded. Guys are moving all over the place. Some very surprising, some not. But like we're seeing a lot of big names, and it's what's funny to me is like, especially like Brady going to Florida, Tkachuk. You're starting to see the teams that Dylan Larkin wanted to go to getting eliminated because they've already made their big move. And I do think at the end of the day, if like people are criticizing the Bruins right now for inactivity and for not doing anything. But I think if you're a little patient here, you might end up getting some players that will become available to you because they have nowhere else to go, or fewer spots to go, and you're still a playoff team.
And you won't have to pay half what the haul that it got. I was amazed at some of this compensation.
Yeah, a lot, multiple, but it's also like setting a bar where it's going to be a high price. Like teams are going to expect, like somebody, like Detroit trading Dylan Larkin should expect a couple of first-round picks and like a second-round pick or something like it's going to be something like that, that you're going to get, and maybe one of them turns into a player or whatever. I mean, it'll, but there's a bar there where you're going to have to hit close to that if you're going to trade for that caliber of a player. And I guess the good news for the Bruins is they have 5 first-round picks over the next 3 years. They're a team that's going to be able to pay that if they want to go out and get a player that's really going to help them. They just need to be really wise about who they're getting and who they're bringing in, and make sure this is somebody that's going to help them for at least 5 years in a big way. If they are going to go out and make that move, I don't think I'd be spending that much on Vinny Trocheck, put it that way.
Exactly.
They've got to be judicious about what they're spending and the picks that they're moving. But between the cap space, the 5 first-round picks, the prospects they have, some of the NHL players they're willing to move, I've been saying this for like the entire month, 2 months. The Bruins can get whatever they want. I think the bigger thing in today's NHL is they have to get a player that wants to come to Boston. That really becomes the name of the game, is somebody that decides they want to play for the Bruins and steers their team towards the Bruins to trade for them. That's kind of the way it works in the NHL now. It's not like you can blow everybody away with an offer and grab somebody that didn't want to come here in the first place. That's happening less and less, and it's more about guys sort of maneuvering their way to the team they want to go to via the no trade clauses that they have.
Yeah. And I don't begrudge the players for trying to govern that process, control that process, because teams are going to players who have those contractual protections and telling them that, look, we're going to need to make a decision about you, and we can do it now while you have control, or we can wait and do it when you have less or no control.
Right.
And if that's the way teams are going to approach players who are in situations that the clubs want to move on or need to do something and involve them in it, then the players are going to push back and say, well, okay, well, here's my control. I'm not as leery about Brady Tkachuk starting a trend. I'm here reading a lot about, well, look at the growing list of Team USA guys who won the gold and are leaving Canadian franchises, or there's the tax bracket question. And so where is all this heading? Is it of a concern if you're a Canadian franchise or if you're a high tax bracket? Yeah, of course, it's real money. But I have a hard time believing, and I don't think it's a hockey culture protected mindset. I think it's a general mindset that a player wants a quality experience in their career. They want an opportunity to win in their career, to be part of something special, to have meaning in their career, and not just be some mercenary taking money at some outpost so that they can say, I'm going to provide for my family. So that means I'm going to make 12 million instead of 10 million. I mean, come on. So I'm not really afraid of it becoming that way with the tax-free. I just think that Florida's become hot because the Stanley Cup has been won almost exclusively by the Lightning and the Panthers until this interruption with the Carolina Hurricanes, who have rocketed their way up the charts of destination places now. Why? Because they just won and they got a great culture there. So I think it's a moving target. I think things will change back. I think it really depends because Montreal is now an asterisk to the Canadian equation. Players want to play for them. They are excited about that team. They want to be part of it. So watch out.
Yeah, no, definitely. The thing that I see that concerns me a little about all this is I feel like it's less. I think there is a little bit, not quite mercenary, I would say, but there's something that's not totally kosher with what's going on in terms of players now almost conspiring to create super teams. We saw it in the NBA, and I think we're starting to see it in the NHL. That's the sort of end goal that these players have in mind, is to go to these teams where they're just loading up on players to win cups instead of trying to do it with the group that they were with. I mean, that's it. And a lot of it, I think, stems from these guys all playing together on Team USA for the frozen face-off, the Four Nations, last year, or 2 years ago in the Olympics last year. And like they're all want to go to like Vegas or Florida or Minnesota, where all the other Team USA guys are, and they're all like starting to, try to load up on those teams with these players to win a Stanley Cup. And that part of it bothers me a little bit because I feel like it's trying to like rig the system a little.
I felt that way about the North Stars in 1980.
Yeah.
They got good in a hurry. That helped that they dissolved the Oakland Seals into their team when they happened to be the team at the bottom of the league in '78. But and then they were suddenly a finalist team in '81. And the Islanders were another team with Olympians infusing their lineup as they became the dynastic run of the first 4 years of the '80s.
Yep.
So, but these phases didn't have sustainability. They have to continue to be fed. And I don't see the mechanism whereby that is guaranteed to continue.
No, for
That's
some.
why that's why I look at that history and this history and say, okay, do we have the right elements for a tornado to form? Maybe.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a tornado watch, but I don't think it's a tornado warning.
But isn't Florida winning back-to-back cups, missing the playoffs, and then going out and getting Brady Tkachuk, kind of doing that exact thing? Like they're feeding that roster another like major player, captain from another team.
It's amazing that they can do this, and they're not going to have a first-round draft pick now for the next 100 years.
It is like good luck playing Brady and Matthew Tkachuk, Brad Marchand and Sam Bennett and Alexander Barkov all on the same team. Like that. That's going to be.
This is why, if I'm the Don Sweeney, I am on the phone trying to get Darnell Nurse to Boston.
Yeah. I
know it's fashionable to frown on Nurse right now, but he was the premier shutdown defenseman on a team that made the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row.
Yep.
And if I'm the Bruins, I'm doubling down on the trend of their team and this trend toward being harder. And I think we got to look at Hampus Lindholm as a possibility of the center of a package going the other way and see if they can get Nurse here and really get the Bruins to have an answer. You can't match the talent up front, and you have to stay intact with your program to slowly develop it, as you said, for the blueprint for 2025, and get that and be loyal to that plan. But on D, where they got to have a foundation success has to be from the goal to the top four. I'm looking at saying, like, I know the right side is a priority, and I agree still to say that. But
no,
right now I'm looking at Nurse and saying, let's get serious here.
I think the priority, Mick, is to get a guy that can be a top three defenseman, like top pairing at his best. Like that's whether it's left or right. I think they just need to get another guy that can play 25 plus minutes and play in all situations and really be like a very big frontline guy on the back end to go along with Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy at this point. And that's the get. It like they can figure out left, right, and how it's all how the pieces are gonna fit together after the fact.
I don't think they can match up on the right if they don't make a serious acquisition for a right shot. They got to have one.
Yeah, I mean,
otherwise it's going to be like a broken wheel. Like it might be a really pretty wagon, but if it has a broken wheel, it can't go far.
Yeah, but my point being, like, if they have to get that guy too, that's fine, and they get somebody that they feel like won't be a broken wheel. Like you can find those guys, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. They need somebody that can potentially be a 1 or a 2. And be part of a top 3 with the Bruins.
I think they thought they had that.
Yeah, but they don't. Like Zadorov, I don't think is that guy. I think Zadorov's very good, but I think you're asking too much of him at times if you're playing him that much and getting him away from like what he does when he's at his best. Like
Hampus, I thought they had really kind of unearthed a guy there. He's one of probably Sweeney's quintessential get a guy who's under the radar on another team and elevate him in Boston player. But he got boxed out against Buffalo and in front of his own net.
Yep.
And if that's where he is in his career for the next 5 years, if that's and now it might be because of the permanent effects of injuries. I know he played with a sprained ankle. He both and Zadorov played with an MCL, and obviously Sturm couldn't shorten the bench the way he really needed to, and like almost any coach does in a playoff series, it's that hard. Um, yeah, I just feel like maybe Hampus is at this point in his career where the chinks in the armor are starting to take over at the end of seasons,
Yeah.
and 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 it might be a good choice for the Bruins to go get a really intimidating player like Nurse, and now if you get the right sider in free agency or however you get it, now teams are going to be afraid of you.
Yeah. Or John Carlson. I think that's another guy because there's an element of like not only you're right about needing the bruiser type guy, but they also need somebody that can move the puck. Like they
Yeah,
need
it'd be a great
somebody.
skill. He can play Pronger hockey.
Yeah.
Chris Pronger can play street hockey when everybody else is skating. He could be like the guy at the pond in his boots who shoots pinpoint passes 100 feet right on sticks.
Yep.
Carlson can still play that game at his age. He's played a
Yep.
whole full career worth, and he showed he can play 20-minute nights playing for Anaheim and help them win a
Yep.
big series against Edmonton.
Yep.
So I mean, if he's got more in him, and I know that everybody in the world seems to think Tampa's going to wind up with him, and I wouldn't be surprised. They're certainly looking to volley back in the Battle of Florida. Who
Yep.
would have thought that that was the normal NHL? That the interstate Battle of Florida is where all the big free agency, the big moves, the big trades, and everything. It's all happening right there.
All right.
Unbelievable.
Let's get to some questions here, Mick. Well, let me ask you. Let me see. What is there one here? Okay, here we go. Hi, Joe. This is from KJ Forbes 77. First, congrats on your Awaken 180 journey. Thank you. I'm down 50 pounds. Appreciate that. Do you think the Bruins are a little worried that if they have a regression in 26-27, that maybe Pastrnak or McAvoy would start to think like Larkin, Matthews, or even McDavid and want to be moved because they feel the clock is ticking on their chance to win? I say that because it might slightly impact how the Bruins look at this offseason. Had the Toronto pick conveyed to this year, I think you could sell Pastrnak and McAvoy on getting 2 top 6, 7 picks into the organization in the last 2 years, and maybe make one more move to open the window in 28, 29, 30 to contend. Without that pick, it's a harder sell to preach some patience. If you gave Bruins management some truth serum, I bet they'd prefer to be a little more patient with upgrading the team, but maybe they take an extra risk or trade to mollify their veteran core players. Hopefully that doesn't turn into overpaying in a trade or make it a short-term acquisition that doesn't help long-term. Like he puts Vinny Trocheck in parentheses. P.S. If the Bruins moved on from Zacha and didn't resign him, I'd be on board with Vinny Trocheck as a bridge center for now. I think as you do that they probably re-signed Zacha, and that's KJ Forbes 77. There's a lot to digest there, but the one thing I do want to ask you is, given the prices that are being thrown around, a lot of first-round picks, like really big-time sellers market, I think, right now. Do you revisit, and there's been reports out there that they've at least been listening a little bit, do you revisit potentially trading Pavel Zacha because of the windfall of assets you could get back for him at this point, with him heading into the final year before he's a free agent, and knowing you're probably going to have to go, 7-8 years, big money, maybe at least 6 years, big money, probably $8 million to keep him in the fold based on the season that he had and him going into free agency.
This summer I would have said no. This summer I say yes. And the reason is we're not only Fraser Minton, but Murat Hustadinov has emerged as one of the Bruins' top defensive forwards, able to play center as needed, wing as needed, and he's dynamic. He may not put up big numbers, but he's a winning player.
Yep.
If in fact you are stuck with Elias Lindholm's contract for a long haul, and you're depending on the inflation of the salary cap to relativize, somehow mitigate the impact of that on your ability to maneuver, then I think that you got to look at moving Zacha for skill, and not only because it's skill to get you to the top, or now or later, but because as you integrate James Higgins or Will Moore in a few years, or Pelosi makes the team, whoever you integrate at the center position to look at as future Matt Poitras, then having veteran established NHL players on the ice to learn from at practice when you're taking a rest from your shift and watching them, similarly to what the Bruins did for 1 year with the apprenticeship of Zacha, playing on Krejci's line and watching Bergeron.
Yeah.
And he got to do that for a whole year. And that was great graduate education for him in the art of playing center in the NHL. He got to see it done two different ways with foundational principles shared that just really inculcated him. Now, is there a limit to what Zacha can do for the Bruins? Yes, he doesn't have great hands. Every once in a while, he scores a goal, but he says, "Oh, there it is. He's going to get 40."
Yep.
He's not that player, and he won't be.
Yep.
And he's been a horse for the Bruins, and he's a great example setter. Love him to death, but I do feel like the bullseye's kind of hovering over him right now. If
Yeah.
it's not on his back, it's close because the Bruins' needs are changing with the emergence of these young players who, fortunately for the Bruins, have acumen for defense far beyond their years.
Yeah, no doubt. I'd explore. I definitely would listen, and if you get an offer that blows you away, I definitely would think about it. I'm a firm believer that they might have most of the answers they need at center right now. They're probably a year or two away from them being fully operational in a way that's going to allow you to be a cup contender. But I think defenseman is more the place where they really, really need to look outside to upgrade, and like a winger that can come in and score some goals for them. Whether if they lose
somebody goes to the net.
Yeah, if they don't re-sign Arvidsson, they're going to need to replace him with like a player like that.
I'd still do it.
Yeah,
I still think they need some muscle. They need some hammer. And you can't. That Cam Neely's not out there. Rick Tockett's not out there. But you got to they got to accent their team going forward that way.
Yeah,
that's got to become an element of their top six.
I still wonder if Alex Tuch ends up in the mix for them if they want to spend money on him, because it looks like he's going to free agency market. He's not going to re-sign with Buffalo. So definitely an interior presence, a guy that did that a lot against the Bruins in that first round series. Didn't do as much in the second round against, was it Carolina they played or Montreal? They played, I can't even remember. Who did they, I forget, whichever team they played. He was.
I don't mean to blow the question, by the way. The Bruins, are they worried about these guys? You know, I don't want to move on from Swayman, McAvoy, or Pasta, but I am concerned about the aging and mileage of Pasta versus the fruition schedule of their plan for the forward lines, which are now largely in the NCAA or just on the cusp of professional hockey. That's concerning to me. That Pasta by then is the elder statesman. If he's Alfredsson as a Red Wing, then it's something I got to keep on the table here, because he might be your greatest asset to win in the Swayman McAvoy window.
Yes. Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's something that it bears watching out in how it plays out over the next couple of years, because he's 30 years old now. Seems to be morphing more into a playmaker than a goal scorer now. And I don't know, I don't know that we're ever going to see, even if like the talent rises around him, we're going to see like a 50, 60 goal season out of him again. Like we did a few years ago. It does seem like at times during the season, the wheels slow down a little bit for sure. When he's playing. So it's going to be interesting to watch how that all plays out. And you're right. He's hard miles. He's been playing in the NHL since he was 18. He's got a lot of miles, a lot of tread off the tire. But he is still only 30, and he's like another 100-point season last year. So he continues to.
He's a legend, and he's a generational talent. His 4 consecutive 100-point seasons have him in Ore Esposito country.
Yep,
that's incredible territory as a Bruin, and for him to be banging those out. You can't just keep expecting it to come, though. And credit to him for changing as the Bruins' needs have changed. He doesn't have David Krejci. He doesn't have Patrice Bergeron. So he becomes the line driver. So good on him for expanding his portfolio and how ways he can help the Bruins survive without elite center play. He becomes the elite line forward playmaker. But they got to preserve him somehow.
Yep.
You got to equip this team to preserve his mileage, or else he's going to be a declining asset.
Yeah, no question. All right, Mick, thank you very much for joining us. We got to both head out and meet at Warrior for Don Sweeney's pre-draft press conference. So thank you for joining us. Let's thank our sponsors, Prizepicks. Download the Prizepicks app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 in the lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in the lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, a preferred partner of the NBA. Also want to let you know that you're listening to the Pucks with Haggs podcast. We thank you for listening. A proud member of the CLNS Media Network. Make sure to hit subscribe to the Bruins Ringside YouTube channel and turn on notifications for when a new video drops on the channel. Mick Colageo, thank you very much for joining us.
Always fun.
You got it. Everybody else out there, thank you for listening. We'll see you at the rink.